Who am I? It's a very simple question. Who am I? But you didn't see this coming. Am I a foot? Am I an eyeball? Am I a heart? Am I a neuron? Am I a pancreas? Funny looking organ. Am I a bunch of cells? Am I a nucleotide in my DNA? Or am I all those things, but much, much more? So who am I? I could answer that philosophically, I could answer that spiritually, where I'm from, who my people are, but I'm asking that to be very, very literal. Like, what am I made out of? What's going on inside of me? What are all the things that make me who I am, that give me my moods, that make me feel the way I do, that make me respond to some of these amazing things we've already seen here today? So this is a quest I've been on. It's hard to believe, 25 years. And I am a science writer, and I was a political writer before, got tired of that, really happy I'm not a political writer right now. But I'm a science writer, and when I first started out in 2001, I was writing for Wired magazine, and I got an assignment to write a story about the Human Genome Project. Okay, we all know what that is now, but back then, not that many people knew about it. They didn't know much about DNA, they didn't know much about genetics. In fact, I didn't know that much about it. And I was trying to figure out, how do I write a story that will resonate? Because my job as a science writer is to hang out with amazing people, scientists, a lot of them here at MIT, Harvard, here in Boston, lots of other places, and try to explain to non-scientists, while not being too far off for scientists to get what I'm describing and what I'm writing about. So I got this idea to test myself. And I didn't realize how weird that was, because almost nobody had been sequenced back in 2001. But I talked to a company in San Diego into sequencing me for the story, and wrote it up. We released the story. Wasn't sure how it was going to be received, but it really resonated with people. It made the story of this unknown science, which was about to become a big deal, it humanized it. It actually focused on a real person. So that got me off and running. And I'm here today to give you a kind of rundown of 25 years of off and on, being tested by almost everyone for everything. I mean, there's too much going on now to be tested for everything, but I literally have had hundreds of labs and companies test me, thousands of tests. I have about 70 terabytes of data. I've sort of stopped keeping track after a while. But this is everything from toxin levels inside of me to my DNA, the other molecules inside of me, proteins, mRNA, MRI scans, all kinds of different scans. I mean, on and on and on and on. And even wearables, apps. At one time, I had a whole bunch of them on my arms here. And more recently, advanced AI and how it applies to healthcare. So I could share with you a whole blizzard of data here, and I will share with you 2 or 3 kind of fun things and interesting things that I think sum up what this 25 years has been. And by the way, it has come in phases. I'm testing again. I didn't for several years, but there's so much exciting things happening, which I'm going to sort of wind up with here. But I did want to share my favorite biomarker. So how many of you can drink coffee right before you go to bed and fall right asleep? Okay, it's about 25% of people, at least in North America. And it's a mutation, the caffeine fast metabolizer gene. And this is my favorite biomarker because I love coffee. And last night, I was in New York. I had a double espresso, went back to my hotel, went right to sleep. So I feel sorry for people who love coffee and have to stop drinking at 2 in the afternoon. So that's, by the way, genetics, people think of it as, oh my God, I've got this risk for a disease, but there's also some kind of fun stuff too. So I'm going to go rifling through the last 25 years, just give you a little bit of a rundown. And by the way, the focus of all of this testing, all of this, what's going on inside of me, who I am, it's all about trying to shift us from an era where we're treating people once they get sick to trying to keep them well. And so that's what this is all about, and I'll get more into that in a second. So back in 2001, this is what the data looked like. This is literally part of the sheets of information I got back. having my DNA sequenced. So this is in an era when you had basically one nucleotide, one genetic marker, or two maybe. It was in the single digits for sure, trying to determine risk factors for major diseases, like say hypertension. Okay, some of these turned out to be okay, but this was early, and it was only a few people being tested. We didn't know much about it back then, but there were whole companies, whole industries that came out of this that sort of went by the wayside because this data is getting better and better. So in 2001, I actually got a finding that I had a risk for hypertension in my future. So I was totally healthy in 2001, had no hypertension, but you skip ahead 17 years. And by the way, in the Wired story, the original Wired story, I said I might have hypertension in my future. So skip ahead 17 years, I started spiking a little bit of high blood pressure. I have medium hypertension now. And I got treated. I take a little pill every day for an ACE inhibitor, and I'm fine. So this is important because, as I said, we're trying to move into an era where we track these diseases using this information inside of us, and we catch them as early as possible. And hypertension is one you do want to catch early because it can do a lot of damage to your heart and can do a lot of damage to your kidneys and other parts of your body. So basically, I gave a lot of blood. I mean, way too much blood. I even passed out a couple times. I gave out so much blood. Being tested, a lot of spit, a lot of, yes, poop. I had my brain EEGs, various scans, MRIs. That's my heart beating, and that's my brain. It's like in a little movie of my brain. So these are all the various ways I was tested. So I got tons of data, and especially when you start skipping ahead, as more and more data was collected, I started getting better and better predictions. Still not great, still small numbers of people, but things like diabetes risk, heart risk, lots and lots of information. There also was the advent of what we called advanced computing back then. It wasn't really AI as we think of it now, but you started being able to layer all this data and create correlations that you'd never seen before and make predictions. So this is circa, 2013 or so, 2014. So remember, we were in single biomarkers. Now we're moving into dozens, hundreds, even the low thousands. So one I want to share with you, which I think is really kind of amazing. It was back in 2008. They were able to put together a whole bunch of data, very early on. This cost them literally tens of thousands of dollars to put together this protocol just for me. But I got predictions of heart attack risk. And this made sense to me. I mean, I'm paid basically as a journalist to be skeptical of all this. I have to, listen to the hype and then try to write what's real. This one I always thought was an interesting one because it had so much data. So I got 3 possible futures here, risk of heart attack. And there's a 20-year projection. It started in 2008. If I gained a half a pound a year starting in 2008, I had a 70% chance of having a heart attack in 20 years. Okay, if I gained no weight, I had a 2% chance. And this is because my particular fingerprint of all this data is I'm very sensitive to weight gain. You may be very different, but so this is what we still want. I mean, we still don't really have this kind of, if you do this or that, if you eat right, if you have a good diet, you can make a big difference in your health future. So I had my heart checked. Oh, by the way, we are in year 17 of this, and I have not had a heart attack. So I've had my heart checked a couple years ago, and I'm still fine. So thank you. Don't give me a heart attack. Anyway, so I'm going to share with you something that's much more recent. This is a story in MIT Technology Review, and I appreciate John stretching it because it is an affiliation with MIT. I've written over 100 stories for them. But this is now jumping into the future from what I was just describing to you. Because we were in single markers, we were in dozens, hundreds, thousands. Now we're in millions of markers. And I had this test done at Yale University, and there's several other labs around the world that kind of participated in the studies that were involved here. And this is now testing not just one condition like hypertension. This is testing an entire system. And I'm sure you're aware, or at least you can intuit, that your immune system is you, basically. I mean, your ability to be able to fend off threats like viruses or a cancer cell that's forming in your body or something bad you ate or a wound. I mean, this is one of the most important systems. I call it the mother of all systems in our bodies. So I went and got this test, and there only been a few hundred people tested. It was incredibly expensive. It took a long time. And I got a score of my immune health age. So this isn't just a prediction of one disease or another. This is the entire immune system. And my score was, drum roll please, 0.35. Okay, that doesn't really mean anything. It's a random number on a scale. But I was placed with people, my score, 20 years younger than I am. So that's pretty good news, right? I'm not sure if I would be showing you the slide if it was 20 years older, but anyway. So I'm going to close with, I was asking, who am I? But what about who could I be? Or who might I be? Who could I be made into? And this is part of what I work on as well. I mean, the whole realm of synthetic biology, where you're redesigning organisms and redesigning DNA. And I'm just going to be really fast here, but this is a Wired story as well. But way back in 2018, I had George Church over at Harvard. I asked him, could we actually create a synthetic genome of a human in a lab? And I knew the answer. He said no. Well, he said we could, but it would be so expensive, it would take years and years. But he surprised me by saying we could do one chromosome. And it could be your chromosome. So he pulled up, because he happened to have it in his computer, because I'd worked with him before, my Y chromosome, the code for it. So we actually made, in a lab, we bought some DNA from a company, had it shipped over, we ran it through a bunch of protocols, and we actually created a functional Y chromosome. But it was better than my Y chromosome, because they actually made a few little changes in the code that would make, if this Y chromosome were put into a full genome, into a cell, and booted up, that cell would be impervious to viruses. So we're talking about the here and now. That's mostly what this talk is about. But I'm also talking about all the different future applications that might come from this. So, as I said, the whole idea with healthcare right now, we're in a real struggle to shift from sick care, where you wait until people show symptoms so they get the disease, to a state of healthcare or wellness where you can figure out the exact moment when you go from a state of healthiness to a state of disease. And so that's what this is all about. It's about balancing an equilibrium of good health. In fact, life on Earth and evolution is really about fending off entropy. Things in the universe always, second law of thermodynamics, they're always going into disorder. Life on Earth for 4 billion years, we've managed to keep things at an equilibrium of life. So that's what this data is all about, if you want to get now we're in a philosophical sort of focus here. So I'm going to end, though, by showing you, I talked about who I am, but this is who potentially my family is. I mean, this is not just about me. I'm kind of a surrogate for all of you, for my family, and I wanted to wind up by saying, who are you? Thank you.